I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight. My name is Joanne Smith, and I'm the principal at Batavia High School. And I'd like to welcome all of our students, parents, community members, and alumni to this very special event. About 2 years ago, the district began working with the Batavia Foundation for Educational Excellence on a very special project that is the Batavia Public Schools Hall of Honor. The idea was to honor as many special people that have attended, worked with, or befriended BPS 101 over its 100-plus year history. This project was a partnership among many of our amazing partners. BPS is lucky to have so many talented and accomplished alumni. On this Saturday, BPS will induct 14 people into the very first Hall of Honor. We are lucky to have a few here tonight to inspire our students to become the best they can be and discuss just how special it is to be a Bulldog. We are also here tonight to receive a special gift from one of our speakers. This year is the NFL's 50th Super Bowl. Ken Anderson, a BPS alumni, played in Super Bowl 16 and will present our school with commemorative NFL Golden Football. Again, thank you all for coming, and next up is our athletic director, David Andrews.
Thank you, Dr. Smith, and just thank everybody for coming out tonight to hear a few encouraging words from our 2015 Hall of Honor guest. The Hall of Honor was initiated to promote pride in Batavia Public Schools and to honor alumni, faculty, and friends who have made outstanding accomplishments in their communities and personal lives. The first speaker tonight will be Mr. Tom Tyre, who is the son of Hall of Honor inductee Gene Tyre. Gene passed away in 1992. He spent nearly a decade on the BPS 101 Board of Education and created Batavia's first anti-drug and alcohol awareness programs. During his final days, Gene also created a scholarship program for students interested in learning a trade. At this time, I'd like to introduce Tom to say a few words.
Thank you very much. My dad really taught me, I think the most important thing that he taught me was how to be community-oriented. And one of the ways that I give back to my community, I live now in Southern California, about a mile off the beach, which is probably why I'm wearing shorts today. But my dad taught me, to really give back to the community, and so I've been real involved with the baseball program, the football program, a lot of other things that go on at our high school, Miracosta. I have two sons who have played football for the last, my older son Dylan played football for 4 years, my younger son Brogan played football for the last 2 years. And I guess one of the things that I would like to talk to all the boys that are playing football right now, as well as their parents, I guess the message that I would tell you is if you've seen the movie Dead Poets Society, the message of that movie is always seize the day. And I would say that seize the day is really something that's important to consider with football. And I'll tell you a little story why with my older son Dylan. My older son Dylan was the starting catcher on the baseball team for his 4 years. He was also a linebacker and a tight end for the football team. So Dylan comes into his senior year, prepared to start. He's supposed to be one of the leaders on the team. First game of the year, we play a tough opponent. His left shoulder pops out. So they basically bring him to the sidelines, they pop his shoulder back in, he goes in and plays some more. So the third game of the year, in about the third series of the game, his right shoulder pops out. So they basically take him to the side. His mom's upset, of course, she's here tonight. And they take him to the side, he's obviously in pain, they pop his shoulder back in, and he goes in and he plays some more. So it comes to the end of the game, and the doctors come over and they see him and they say, there's a 90% chance that if he plays any more football, he's going to have surgery on one or both of his shoulders, and he's going to lose his senior year of football and his senior year of baseball. So Dylan had to make a really tough decision, and we had to make that decision with him, because the great thing about being a football player and being part of a football team is that camaraderie and that commitment that you guys give. I know, in Miracosta, in Manhattan Beach, where I live, all the kids who play football spend 4 hard summers running and lifting weights when all of their buddies are down at the beach, screwing around and having fun. So it may be a little bit different here that you don't have a beach right nearby, or at least within a mile of Batavia High School, but it's no less difficult for you guys to all make that commitment and come and work out during the summer and do what you need to do to be a successful program. But ultimately, it all proves worth it. But what happened with Dylan is he had to make the decision, and he made the decision that he wasn't going to be able to play football anymore after his 3rd game of the year, which was very difficult. He stayed with the team, of course, through the rest of the year, attended the practices, did those kinds of things. But the great thing that did happen with my son, and I like to think that there's some divine justice, is that because he took that time off, because he didn't have surgery, he did get to play his senior year of baseball, and he wound up being All-State in Southern California for the year. And so we were really proud of him for that. And the people that were most proud of him were his football coaches, and I really appreciate that they knew what he was going through. So the point of this story is really know that, everything that you give to the football field can be taken away in a moment. So don't plan for the future. Don't sit there thinking like I'm playing for the D1 scholarship. Play for Saturday's game, play for the next Saturday's game, and just let it take you where it's going to take you. So thank you very much for having me here tonight, and go Bulldogs.
Thank you, Tom. Next speaker is Mr. Bob Dahlstrom. Mr. Dahlstrom graduated from Batavia High School in 1957, served in the Army Reserves for 6 years, and retired from the U.S. Post Office after 41 years of service. Mr. Dahlstrom is a pillar in the community and a lifelong resident of Batavia. Please welcome Bob to say a few words.
Good evening. This is past my comfort zone, I'll tell you that. As he stated, I'm from the class of 57, and I'm still in shock that I was chosen to receive the Community Service Award for the BHS Hall of Honor. I grew up in a farm on the east side of Batavia, and our home on South Forest Avenue is still part of a farm, and the Knowles subdivision and Emmanuel Lutheran Church are still on that's our original farm property. I confess I never did go out for sports because through my junior year, I played trombone in a marching band when the football field was held at the athletics field on Illinois Avenue. During the week, I would get up at 5 o'clock to help my dad milk cows, and then I'd get to school by 8 o'clock. After school, I helped with chores and did milking again in the evening. Sometimes in the fall, I missed school for a day because we had to bale hay when the hay was ready to be baled. I look back now, and I wish that I would have taken better advantage of what classes were offered at Batavia High School. I admit sometimes, being that I got up early and all that, I did fall asleep in class a couple times.
So did they.
I know you guys can't relate to that. Early in my life, I learned the value of hard work and helping others. My parents modeled it, and I received a great deal of satisfaction in lending a hand to someone in need. As a rural mailman for over 40 years, I had many opportunities to help stranded motorists fix mailboxes and to go the extra mile. When I retired, somebody called out the post office and said, when are you going to fix my mailbox? And they said, well, the guy that used to fix mailboxes, he retired. So I guess it wasn't part of my job description, apparently. Whenever I do see a need, I do whatever it takes to get the job done. Since retiring 16 years ago, I wake up each morning and ask the Lord for guidance in helping me to meet people's needs that I encounter throughout the day. It can be a neighbor, it can be a friend, a stranger, but I want to have a servant's heart to help others. I never seem to run out of projects or people to help. Last fall, during homecoming weekend, I had the opportunity to tour your high school facilities and see the quality of equipment that is available to you, and I encourage you to take advantage of what you have here and carry on the legacy of good teamwork and sportsmanship that Batavia is well known for in the Fox Valley, but not only here, but also throughout the state. I have only lived in Batavia, but I would not choose to live any other place. I enjoy seeing articles in the newspaper about Batavia students' accomplishments and honors on both on and off the field. I want to challenge you to seek ways of helping people around you. In the school hallways, in your neighborhood, and in your home, look for ways to help put the needs of others before your own. Think about the lonely student who needs a smile and encouragement, the single mom down the street, an elderly neighbor who has leaves to rake, and your own parents who provide for you. What can you do to lighten their load of care? Do acts of service and kindness for them, and don't take anything for it. You'll then know the joy of serving others. It's a lifelong passion of mine that I would like to pass on to you. Serve others with a grateful heart on the field of life every day.
That, students, is a true bulldog right there. Thank you very much, Bob. Next speaker will be the mayor of Batavia, Mr. Schilke. Mayor Schilke graduated from Batavia High School in 1967 and is a sixth-generation resident of Batavia and the longest-serving mayor in Batavia history. He is currently serving his 35th consecutive year. Mr. Schilke, the mic is yours.
Well, thank you. I got to tell you, I am deeply honored, number one, to be chosen for this honor, but secondly, I am really deeply honored to be a graduate of this institution and this high school. And Batavia High School, hopefully all of you realize it, has had kind of some unique rendezvous with itself and with the national realm of history in the United States of America, and we've had things happen from students in this building and people that have graduated from this school that not a lot of other schools in this whole area or throughout the United States can claim. But I wanted to come tonight because one of my classmates, Ken Anderson, he is also a member of the Batavia High School class of 1967. I have a story I'd like to tell about him, and I think it's appropriate because it's about the very first Super Bowl. Now, to give you a little background here, Ken and I started at the old Batavia High School down where the library is in September of 1963. And in 1965, the community passed a referendum to build what they then called the new Batavia High School, which is where we are now, although it was a much smaller building than what we are in today. He and I arrived here in September of 1966 as our senior year, so we only spent 1 year at the new Batavia High School. And when we got here, the Batavia High School of 1966 was basically a building with 3 educational hallways, and then the main hallway, which is still here, and then off the main hallway was 1 gymnasium, there was 2 music rooms, and a shop room. And that was it. But we were really proud about it because we had spent our first 3 years in the old high school, and we were very excited and honored to be the first graduating class from the then new Batavia High School. As things unfolded, in January of 1967 was the year that the very first Super Bowl was played. And the date was January 15th of 1967. And the Batavia School Board and the school administration decided that they wanted to have a big dedication on that day and invite the entire community in to tour the new high school and see it and see what was going on. And there was a lot of interest because everybody had watched this being built out here, and unless you went to school here, you didn't really get a chance to come into the building. So what happened is that they asked the officers of the then Student Council and the officers of the National Honor Society to be the tour guides for the citizens of Batavia that were going to come to the dedication of the new high school. Well, as things broke out, I was an officer of the Batavia Student Council in my senior year, and Ken Anderson was an officer of the National Honor Society. So he and I were tapped to be some of the tour guides for the citizens of Batavia to tour their then new high school. So you have to appreciate the timing of this. The first Super Bowl ever to be played in the history of the United States, I believe, was supposed to start at 3 o'clock our time. But there were some warm-up programs and whatever that were going to be on TV. So those of us who were tour guides, and I believe Ken was certainly here, came out to our assigned duties. And the president of the student council, who was, again, a classmate of Ken and myself, was a guy by the name of Dave Brewer. And Dave got to sit up on the podium with the superintendent and the principal, and they got up there, and the old superintendent, J.B. Nelson, got a little bit long-winded, and so this program kind of dragged on for a little bit. And so I could see Brewer was up there watching his clock on his watch, and so I'm standing off to the side, and so they get done with the program, and it's about, maybe 2:30, 2:45, and Brewer comes off the stage, and he says to me, Jeff, the Super Bowl is about to start, and Tom Stefano and Ken Anderson and myself, we're all members of the football team, and we really want to go home and watch that first Super Bowl game. So would you mind volunteering to take all the people on a tour of Batavia High School? Because we're going to take a powder and leave the building. So next thing I said, well, I guess so, we'll do it best we can. So the three guys left. And so there was basically just the president of the National Honor Society, Paul Ross, and myself left to do the tour. And there was probably about 500 or 600 citizens of Batavia who were here to get the tour of the new building. So needless to say, I think I did a pretty good job because instead of having small groups, we were supposed to tour about 50 people each. I think I had like 3 tours of 100 each, and they sent some people into the cafeteria to be fed refreshments, and then they waited, and then we brought the tour back, and we did. Fortunately, Batavia High School was 3 hallways, 2 music rooms, the gym, and the shop room. So I could move them along pretty quick. So we got over with it, and it got done, and I was, it was no big thing for me. I was fine to do it. So then we moved the clock ahead about 14 years to 1981, and I was then running for mayor of Batavia, and so a bunch of people started having coffees for me, and I'd go to the coffee, and all these people would say to me, well, we remember you. You were the guy that gave us the tour of Batavia High School. So politically, this worked out pretty good for me. I made a lot of friends and won a lot of votes, I think, that day doing this. But it got even better, and this is where the rendezvous of history came in, because then we get to 1982. And suddenly I find that my classmate, Mr. Anderson, is going to be the starting quarterback for the Super Bowl representing the Cincinnati Bengals against San Francisco and Joe Montana. And so what suddenly happened was I go to the office like a week before the Super Bowl, and here stands CNN. And they want to interview me as the mayor and the classmate of the Super Bowl quarterback. So I did that one, and then WLW from Cincinnati showed up, and we did that, and then NBC showed up. I was given more interviews. You wouldn't have believed the number of interviews I gave because my high school classmate was the starting quarterback of the Super Bowl. But I think the story here is that, sometimes life unfolds and you begin to think, well, gee, was that the best thing? That was the greatest thing that ever happened to me, quite frankly. And I'm very proud to tell you that I think I'm honored the fact that I know Ken Anderson has got to watch all 50 of the, or I guess it's 49 now, all the Super Bowls that have been played to this point in time, including playing in them himself. But, you know, I'm very proud that that's the story that comes out of Batavia, and I thought I just wanted to share that with you. One other thing I want to say before I sit down, I've been the mayor, as you all know, a long time, and I've had the opportunity to know a lot of mayors throughout the region. I hold a couple of regional roles in the region amongst governmental officials, so I get to talk and know a whole bunch of people. And what I want to say to this year's football team is that, gentlemen, you are the beneficiaries of a legacy out of this school that is legendary in this region. And I will tell you that quite honestly, you know, we have to be humble and we don't want to brag. But, you know, Batavia High School, you know, you could go to the two towns north of us, and I do this sometimes just to kind of pull some chain up there when I'm meeting with my counterparts. I say, how many high school football championships has Geneva won? How many has St. Charles won? Well, and then I say, well, how many high school basketball championships, state basketball championships has Geneva or St. Charles won? They haven't won any. So as a result, you know, we don't want to flaunt this too badly, but Batavia's got a lot to be proud of. And then we have somebody like a Ken Anderson that comes out of here and has just a remarkable and respected career in professional football and really does this town genuinely proud. And then we have Dan Issel come out, and he was a year ahead of Ken and myself in '66, and he ends up retiring as one of the all-time high scorers in the history of professional basketball. And then we have Craig Sager, who unfortunately, because of some illness, has been one of those recognized with our award, but he couldn't come this time. But Craig had the distinction, he's a sports reporter, and he had the distinction of being at the game when Hank Aaron hit the home run that broke Babe Ruth's record. And if you knew Craig Sager, you could realize this was entirely possible. He had a tape recorder in the dugout because he was working, I believe, for Ted Turner at the time. And so he grabs the recorder and he runs the bases with Hank Aaron as Aaron's circling the bases after breaking Babe Ruth's record. And he made a tape interviewing the guy as he's walking the base. And if you go to the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York, to today, that interview and that tape are shown as part of an exhibit there. So again, he's a Batavia High School graduate. You know, we've got an athletic story here that is something we should all be extremely proud of. And I'm very pleased and honored to see this football team that's on the field this year. You guys are catching a lot of notice. I go to meetings with other mayors from throughout the region, and I hear, here comes Batavia again. It looks like you're going to be another one of the big powerhouses. So guys, thank you for all you're doing. Thank you for picking up and carrying forth this great legacy that people like Ken Anderson and others have given us. And as we used to say when Ken was in school, we had a cheer that went, we're from Batavia and we couldn't be prouder. And if you don't hear us, we're going to yell a little louder. Well, we can yell as loud as we want because we have every reason to. And Batavia High School should be extremely proud of the athletic program and the staff that we have both previously and today that's leading this, because we got something special going on here. And I am very, very proud and honored to be the mayor of a town that has this distinguished record. So keep up the great work. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Mayor Schilke. Last speaker will be Ken Anderson. Ken graduated from Batavia High School in 1967 and went on to become the starting quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals in the Super Bowl 16. Mr. Anderson also remains one of the most accurate short-range passers in the NFL today. Tonight, Mr. Anderson, like stated before, has a special presentation to Batavia High School. It's a golden NFL football that's being presented to every high school in the world that has produced a player or coach who's appeared in the Super Bowl. The Golden Football also commemorates the 50th anniversary of the NFL and the Super Bowl. Ken, thank you very much.
Jeez, Mayor, you thought J.B. Nelson was long-winded. You know, the mayor of Batavia must really be a lousy job, and nobody wants it because he's been mayor for 35 years. Anyway, he was talking about 1981, and of course, that was our Super Bowl season, and it was January of '82. We're playing in the AFC Championship game against San Diego. Of course, the winner goes to the Super Bowl. That game came to be known as the Freezer Bowl. The wind chill temperature for that game was 59 below zero, which was the coldest game in NFL history. The mayor at that time, I think, was a guy named Shelkey, and he thought it would really be nice on that Sunday if they had Ken Anderson Day to celebrate the AFC Championship game. I think it's the only time that anybody's ever had a day and they weren't invited to their own day. So I must admit, I'm a little bit nervous speaking in front of you tonight. It's been almost 60 years since I graduated from high school, and it kind of reminds me of the first time that I went out to speak when the Cincinnati Bengals drafted me. They sent me out to talk to a small group, and the MC got up to introduce me, and he started off by saying, "They say this young man needs no introduction, and I certainly hope so because I've never heard of him before." Well, obviously, none of you were born when I was in Batavia High School. Most of your parents weren't born. I know a lot of your grandparents around here, though. But, you know, obviously, Batavia's always been a special place for me, and especially the high school. You know, my dad was the custodian at the high school for years, and I spent a lot of time in the gym here when he'd come and clean up after basketball games, and I get to get the varsity basketballs out and shoot with my buddies and bring them in on Sunday mornings. Started playing football when I was in the 7th grade, and that's how I became a quarterback. It was really kind of easy because, you know, the coach was going there passing out equipment the first day, and they said, "Who wants to play running back?" And, of course, everybody raised their hands. And they said, "Who wants to play wide receiver?" And more guys raised their hands. "Who wants to play quarterback?" I looked around, nobody raised their hands. Instant starter right there. My career was almost short-lived, though, when I was in high school. I was a sophomore, and our coach was a guy named Bob Kellogg. And West Chicago was in the conference at that time, and we were playing the fresh soft game over in West Chicago. And it was in the first quarter, and after a couple series, I had thrown an interception, and I came off the field, and Coach Kellogg greeted me very vocally and said, "I told you not to throw a pass until I gave you permission." And I said, "Coach, you never said that." "I told you not to throw a pass until I gave you permission." I said, "Yes." Yeah, I agreed with him, and luckily he let me go back in, you know, the next series, and I got to play a little bit more. But, you know, coming out, I always thought I was a better basketball and baseball player than I was in football, and I didn't have very many offers to play after high school, but one of them was Augustana College. And so I was going out there, and I was going to play basketball and baseball at Augustana, and our football coach happened to be a guy named Bill Day, who's unfortunately no longer with us. But he came to me in June and said, "Kenny, you ought to try out for football." And so I wrote the coach at Augustana, a guy named Ralph Starenko, a letter and asked if I could try out for the football team. I'd been working out. I thought I was in pretty good shape. I was a quarterback, but probably a little bit better defensive back. And I got a response that said I could try out for the football team. You got to understand, Division III in those days, they take warm bodies. They need kind of, you know, they get their numbers out there. They'll take anybody. But I ended up starting and having a pretty good career and ended up being drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals. So that was a big moment for me. And, you know, you see now, and what was Eli Manning's latest contract? He signed a 4-year extension for $84 million. And my first contract negotiation went very easy with Mike Brown down in Cincinnati. He brought me to the draft in those days was in January, and the second day of the draft, he brought me to Cincinnati, and I was there. We went to his office, and we were talking about a contract, and he said, "Kenny, we're going to offer you a 3-year contract for $18,000, $20,000, and $22,000, and give you a $7,500 signing bonus." That was a third-round draft choice. I'm thinking to myself, you know, the $18,000 sounds pretty good. I got a teaching job lined up on the north side of Chicago, and that's $5,000, so I'm okay with the contract. But for some reason, I said I want a $10,000 signing bonus. And Mike Brown pulled a check out of his pocket, made out to me for $7,500, and said, "This is all you're going to get." And I said, "Fine, where do I sign?" You know, thinking back, on my career and so many, great moments. And, of course, there's the Freezer Bowl that we were talking about. And I'm so glad that when I played, that there was no ESPN, there was no Fox Sports, or there weren't all these networks. There's so many cameras around that everything is caught now. I mean, you've seen it, a coach yelling at a player. Everything that goes on inside a football stadium is caught on a camera somewhere. Well, we're playing in the AFC Championship game, and it's a cold day, and I'm sitting on the bench, and it's the first time they had brought the heated benches into our stadium. And so I'm there, and luckily I've got my helmet on, but I'm sitting on the bench, I'm sitting on my hands, and they've got the little slots where you can put your feet in them, so I'm kind of sticking my feet in, and all of a sudden there is a roar of the crowd, and I stand up to see if there's a turnover if I'm going back in. My feet don't come out, and I'm going down. The first thing that hits is my face mask, and I'm seeing stars. And I'm calling for the trainer, give me some smelling salts, give me something. I can't get knocked out of the AFC Championship game because I fell off the damn bench. I'm sure like most of you, I grew up a Chicago Bears fan. And, of course, in those days, the quarterback was Billy Wade, and then it was Rudy Bukic, and, great times for the Chicago Bears. And played against them a few times, but probably the most memorable time I played against them was late in my career. It was 1985. And like I said, that was late in my career, and at that point in time, I was moved to a backup quarterback, was backing up Boomer Esiason. And we're playing the Bears in Cincinnati, and of course, that was the year that the Bears won the Super Bowl. They had the 46 defense with Buddy Ryan, and one of the great defenses of all time. And we're getting killed, and Boomer Esiason is getting killed. So we're starting the fourth quarter, and the coach, who was Sam Weisman, says, Kenny, I want you to go in and play the fourth quarter. And I go, why? He said, well, we're still in the playoff hunt. You haven't taken any snaps in a month. I said, I've been taking snaps for 15 years. He said, no, I want you to go in and play. So I go trotting out on the field, and they had Jim Dent and McMichael and Singletary, all those defensive guys. He says, Kenny, throw some more passes. We need more sacks. This doesn't sound real good. I look over to the sideline, and the third-string quarterback is signaling in, and it's a pass. And I'm thinking to myself, off-tackle right's a much better call. And we go off-tackle right for a couple yards. And I look to the sideline, and there's another signal. It's another pass. Well, going off-tackle left to the weak side, they're set up for that. It's 3rd down and 6. Another pass is called. A draw play is perfect in this situation. We plan to go 3 and out, and I go over to the sideline, and the coach says, Kenny, he says, we're signaling passes. Why aren't you running them? I said, you got the third-string quarterback giving the signals. He's got no idea what he's sending. I'm just calling plays. I threw one pass the rest of the day. But it's really been, fun for me to come back and the memories that, seeing some of my old teammates and friends around town. And for you guys, I think one of the things that you've got going for us that a lot of teams, and a lot of high schools, don't have is tradition. And Jeff was talking about it, the tradition of Batavia High School athletics, of Batavia High School, excellence in everything that they do is something to really be proud of. And I know it just, I'm looking at the football team out here, and what a good-looking bunch of guys, and I'm thinking, my God, what do we have, about 30 on our team, maybe, my senior year? And I'm going to put my coaching hat on, if you don't mind. I played for 16 years. I ended up coaching in the NFL for 17 years. And tomorrow's homecoming. Big game. You guys have played in a lot of big games. I played in a Super Bowl. I coached in a Super Bowl with the Pittsburgh Steelers when we beat Arizona for a Super Bowl title. And, so I kind of know what big games are about. And you want to do well in a game like this. And sometimes you play in big games and you feel, I got to do more than I'm capable of. Do your job tomorrow night. Trust the guy next to you to do his job. Play within yourself. You don't have to do anything more than you're capable of because you're good enough to win just as you are. I'm sure you've heard this from Coach a million times. What's football? It's blocking, it's tackling, it's throwing, it's catching, it's holding onto the football when you run it. It's not a complicated game. You got your alignment, you got your assignment, know what to do. Line up in the right spot, carry out your assignment. Trust your buddy to carry out his assignment. You do those things under any circumstances, whether it's raining, whether it's snowing, whether it's hot, whether it's cold, you win. Batavia High School is used to winning. I'm excited about going to this game tomorrow night. Excited about going to this game. So good luck to you. And before I sit down, if I can get, the principal, coach, AD, come on up here. I found out about this a couple months ago from a guy that was a former player in the National Football League. He says, Kenny, he said they're going to give a gold football in honor of the 50th year of the NFL to the high school of every player that played in a Super Bowl. And I said, well, great. So I kind of looked into it, and it said, well, they were just going to send the ball to the high school. And I said, well, I'm going to go there. I'm being inducted into the Hall of Honor. So he gave me an email address, and so I started the process. I said, can we have the ball there in time so I can do it on September 16th when I'm back in Batavia? So this is literally about the second or third football out of 3,000 that are going to be given to high schools around the country from guys that have played in football. And so it's with great pleasure that I can give this, and hopefully it goes in the trophy case somewhere. And Coach, this is an NFL football. It's a Super Bowl now. It's got my name on it, and I'm just glad to be back. Good luck tomorrow night, guys.
Thank you. No, it's wonderful. Thank you. That was awesome. Just stay standing. That's fine. Thank you, first of all. Guys, you look great. I'm really proud of you and did a really nice job tonight. Parents and people from the community that came out, thank you. Thank you to our Hall of Honor honorees that are here watching this evening and that spoke to the team. Wonderful stories. And again, guys, this is a special place to grow up, as you can see. We were very nervous to meet you, Ken. And I'm going to tell you that, as expected, someone, a legend to us here in the Batavia community, as nice and wonderful as a man, as we thought you would be. So thank you for being so gracious and excited. And I know we have a couple gifts that we would like, a few things we want to give you and the other gentleman that here spoke this evening. So captains, I have some things that you can give them. And also, I think only, Mr. Bowman, I think you're the best speaker. What we'd like to offer something to Mr. Anderson tomorrow night, if he can.
We would like you to take out our flag before the game as we take the field.
I'm there. Thank you guys very much. Well, how heavy is this thing? I'm 66 years. I can handle it. Okay, I'm there.
All right, so we have some parting gifts. Some you like, maybe not so much. So on the far corner, there's the National Honor Society student there in the upper corner. Card and a picture of you in the team. Now, he was number 12 and 32, and he said it's because it's whatever jersey fit, that's what they gave you back then. So we have a little gift for you if you want to hold that, guys. Let's see, let me get this right. Well, first, a couple things here. Checking that one there. Let me get this right. I want you
Hey,
to
this
give
is
us
like Christmas up here now.
So he did say he wanted to have a coach's shirt, so we'll take care of that
All right,
first thing. And then, that would be a state championship worn jersey. We did get new uniforms. So we put your name, 32 was your jersey number, and that's yours to keep, one of our state championship jerseys. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
And then we just have some other cool stuff you can go through later. You'll like it. Trust us.
I tell you, this jersey is going to be so cool because I've got my last NFL jersey with the Bengals framed. I've got my college jersey at Augustana framed, and now I can have my high school jersey framed too. Thank you.
Hold on. So a few more presents. So this goes to now, we have a tradition that all of our senior graduates who played 4 years here at Batavia, they leave with the helmet for them to keep. So here's a helmet for you as well. And hold on, there's more. Oh, and then if you look at your poster, we noticed that you were Player of the Week one week, and we have little ceremonies that we do as well. So as a Player of the Week, you get a little mini football, and We'll give you one for 50 years ago, so there you go.
Why don't you take the one that's not doesn't have the cellophane?
Here you go. Paul.
It's got to be defense. I knew it was defense.
I'd like to see your jersey. Could you show them your jersey? This is like we're on a game show. There you go. There you go.
I mean, this is a lot better quality than we had back in '67. I'm telling you that.
Thank you all so much for coming, and I expect to see everyone out in the field tomorrow night, rain or shine, to beat St. Charles East. Go Bulldogs!